Welcome to Cabinet, everybody. We'll launch straight into it, and then we've got item 1, which is apologies for absence. As far as I'm aware, there's no apologies. Brilliant. Item 2 is urgent business. I've not been notified of any items of urgent business. Item 3 is declarations of interest. Does any member have a declaration of interest to declare for any item on this agenda? No? Brilliant. Item 4 is public question time. We've got 2 public questions. The first is from Councillor Sam Al-Hamdani for me to respond to. So Councillor Al-Hamdani asks, so for the purpose of the live stream, I'll read out his question. It says, in response to a question on the spending on a new pitch for Oldham Athletic, Councillor Shah stated that in the event that clawback is required to enable the council to recover any of the grant deemed ineligible, the formal procedure would be for officers to prepare a formal report for the relevant cabinet members, and then depending on the nature of the concerns or issues being raised, this could then be escalated to cabinet. In either occurrence, the formal decision relating to the issues and enactment of clawback would be a matter of public record. She stated further, although not minuted, that this was her understanding anyway, and that she was not aware of any circumstance, not in her leadership or her time in the cabinet, that this has been done behind closed doors in the way that I was describing. I would like to refer Councillor Shah to the decision, a term which here must be used very loosely, taken regards to the clawback clause 7.1 relevant period contained within the grant funding agreement dated 19th of August 2011 for the new stand at Oldham Athletic. This disposal took place in 2016 while she was in the cabinet. That clawback clause was not pursued. Having had meetings with the senior management team at the council, I understand that no report was ever produced and no concerns ever escalated to cabinet. There is no formal record of any decision on this matter. Before we even consider the merits of this decision itself, can she explain how this decision was taken with regards to a grant from Oldham Council for £700,000, a very substantial amount of money, with no report and no formal record of the decision? How can Oldhamers be confident that there weren't other decisions taken in exactly the same way, as she was unaware of this one, which took place while she was a cabinet member and had been for several years? And how can they have confidence that this Labour Council is properly spending and taking care of its budget when decisions like this have been taken without any formal oversight? So I'd like to thank Councillor Sam Al-Hamdani for his question. And for the purpose of those who aren't elected members, I'll try and explain in simple, plain English how we write grant agreements. And to make sure that we actually get the benefit that is agreed for Oldham and the community as part of that grant. So in drafting grant agreements, we ensure that we are clear about the benefits and conditions that we expect for the grant, and we then monitor those conditions or the delivery of those benefits to make sure we get value for money for the money that we give. I can confirm that the council has been actively monitoring the conditions of the recent grant agreement for Oldham Athletic. This monitoring has not resulted in any circumstances being identified where it would be necessary to trigger the clawback condition. Consequently, there has been no requirement for Cabinet to consider a report in respect of this matter, which explains why it never was. In relation to the 2011 grant agreement, I assume that the council is referring to a short period of time under the previous club management arrangements when the North Stand was not made available for the community to use, which was a grant condition at that time. I understand that the decision not to enact the clawback clause at that time was not formally recorded. While I'm not cited on all the details, this matter has already been investigated by the Council's Corporate Governance and Audit team, and they found that it was clear that the purpose for which the grant was given had been and continues to be fulfilled. I'm sure that will address Councillor Sam Al-Hamdani's concerns. The second question is from Councillor Garth Harkness for Councillor Chris Goodwin. So I'll read the question and then I'll hand over to Councillor Goodwin. So Councillor Harkness asks, can I welcome the Cabinet's decision to recently make 20-mile-per-hour zones permanent in some of Saddleworth's villages? This is something the Liberal Democrats have been advocating for some time. Can I also welcome the Cabinet member's response to my proposals to look at road safety and 20-mile-per-hour zones in Diggle? Does he share the same concerns as me that the Conservative government are considering restrictions on council's ability to impose 20-mile-per-hour speed limits as part of a new shift against green policies and traffic schemes. Does he also agree that the 20 miles per hour and green initiatives here have been a success and the stance by the Conservative government is short-sighted? It is already being introduced in Wales and Scotland, and many local authorities in England have adopted it as the default. Does he believe that the Conservative government should let councils run their own areas? I call on Councillor Goodwin to respond.
Thanks to Councillor Harkness for his question. The Road Danger Reduction Group, led by Transport for Greater Manchester, is currently reassessing the speed limit policy and the implementation of lower speed limits in the light of the ever-increasing use of the highway by non-motorised users, such as walking, scooting and cycling. The existing 20-mile-an-hour speed limits were introduced using temporary powers granted by central government during the COVID pandemic. These powers expired in April 22. As and when funding becomes available, Oldham Council is changing the temporary measures to permanent physical restrictions, and we are working with all partners to ensure that the changes and restrictions introduced are proportional and suitable for the local community. This work includes a Greater Manchester Police request to only introduce permanent 20-mile-an-hour speed limits in conjunction with physical speed calming measures to support self-enforcement.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwin. Item 5, minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 21st of August 2023. Did Cabinet agree the minutes of the Cabinet meeting of 21st of August 2023? Agreed? Thank you. Item 6 is the Send and Inclusion Strategy 2023-2027. Before I introduce Councillor Ali to speak to this report, I just want to say a few words on this Send and Inclusion Strategy. Cabinet will obviously be aware that we've recently had a joint Ofsted and CQC inspection of the Send partnership. That inspection has obviously left us all and the NHS with a lot of work to do. We're working along the NHS to deliver and oversee an improvement plan that addresses all the feedback that we've been given. We're also going to be working with Point and Oldham Parent Care Forum to ensure the view of parents and carers, children and young people influence that improvement, and to ensure that they get them that they essentially receive the services that they deserve. It's unacceptable. I'll say again, like I did at full council, that children are waiting too long for speech and language therapy. It's also unacceptable that they wait too long for mental health support, and this council has to lead the improvements that are needed. And this strategy is key to that. It's been developed with parents, carers and providers, and it already has received praise from the Send Inspection team, and their letter specifically states that the strategy is well thought out and reflective of the current needs within Oldham. There are early signs that this approach has the potential to have a positive impact. So I want to thank the work that you've done, Councillor Ali, and your officer team, including our DCS, Gerard Jones, and we look forward to achieving all the outcomes that we're set out to do. And I'm going to hand over to you now.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This strategy is a crucial step in building the services our children and families need and deserve. It is our responsibility to ensure that children and young people with SEND receive the highest amount of care and attention, and this plan sets out just how we plan to achieve that. I'm proud that this strategy was produced in collaboration with parents and carers, as we need their valuable input in order to design and deliver the best possible services. I'd like to thank all of them who contributed their valuable time and knowledge in order to get this plan together. The key priorities of this plan is based on reviews of the current system. These priorities include working with communities to identify needs early so that support needed can be identified quickly, enabling children and young people to get involved in the local community. Working better to identify where specialist support is needed, improving access to education and securing better outcomes for children with autism. Other priorities set out in this plan include identifying the needs of children and young people with speech, language and communication needs at the earliest stage, making sure every experience a child has with a SEND-related service is a good one. The 5-year strategy aims to ensure that every family's experience of the borough's SEND services is a good one, a good experience, and all children are given the opportunity they need to fulfill their potential. And as you said, Leader, well, the inspector did find that the strategy is ambitious and well thought out and reflective of the current needs within Oldham, and this could have a positive impact on improving our services. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ali. Does any other member wish to comment? No? Item 7 is the service level agreement with Maya Care Group CIC, Councillor Brownridge.
Thank you, Chair. So this has been a really good piece of work between Maya Care and the officers to reflect the fact that Maya Care has now been in existence for 10 years, celebrated its birthday this year, which is very exciting. So it's a refreshing the service level agreements between what we commission them to do and how they deliver it and how we monitor it. It builds in a bit of flexibility, so recognising that Maya Care going forward will change with the full implementation of the target operating model. So it allows the flexibility to make those variations in the future, and importantly also recognises that the council has obligations in terms of the services that Maya Care buy back from them, and that's something that a bit more work's needed on. But a really thorough piece of work, and I commend the officers' efforts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Brownridge. And if you're wondering why I was sniggering at myself, it was to acknowledge my stupidity, because I forgot to ask Cabinet to agree the recommendations for the Send Report item 6. So if we can go back just before we come back to this. So item 6 for the Send Inclusion Strategy, do members of the Cabinet agree the recommendations for that report? Thank you so much. Item 7, I think we're going to consider, Cabinet's going to consider the recommendations for that report at item 10. And then so we're on to item 8, which is Treasury Management Quarter 1 Report 2023-24. Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you, Chair. So this report advises Cabinet of the performance of the Treasury Management function of the Council for the first quarter of this financial year 23-24, and provides a comparison of performance against the Treasury Management strategy for this same period. There is a couple of things new with this report, Chair. In the past, we were required to report on a 6-monthly basis, but there's new code coming into practice from 1st of April, which means we have to bring a quarterly report to Cabinet and then subsequently take it to Council. So obviously this isn't done to make sure that some of the things that's happening in the local sector doesn't happen. So I can tell you that we're okay with that. This report sets out very clearly that we're managing all the Treasury functions in line with the best practices. So you can be reassured of that. The second point I wanted to make was that we have got a new Treasury Management Advisor. They're called Eiling Close Limited, and they're advising on us on this area. And the report before you is slightly different than in the past in terms of its format, but it contains all the necessary details for you to get a proper update on this function. So I'm quite happy for any members to ask any questions, but obviously once this is approved, Chair, this will go to full Council for consideration, and it will be a quarterly report coming before Cabinet for consideration. And again, there's lots of technical details, and our Finance Director, Anne Ryan's here. If anybody's got any technical question they would like to ask, then I'm sure Anne will be only too happy to answer those. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jabbar. Does any member wish to speak? No? Okay, does the Cabinet agree the recommendations set out in the report? Agreed. Thank you. So item 9 is exclusion of the press and public, so we'll give them a couple of minutes to... Yep. Thank you.